Hi, everyone. Kathy Rose here, and I have my wonderful friend Agnes Belesne with me today. She is an amazing astrologer and feng shui practitioner. She's in Miami, Florida, and we're going to talk about the solar eclipse in Aquarius. So, first, hi, Agnes. Thanks for coming
Hi,
on.
Kathy. Thanks for having me on.
So Agnes and I did a video together in February where we talked about this eclipse. You can find that on my YouTube channel. It's entitled Solar Eclipse in Aquarius. And we talked about the development that is ongoing from this particular eclipse. It was a very special configuration in that chart, right?
It really was. And what's fascinating how this specific degree, 28th, 29th degree of the late fixed signs, actually will get activated for a long period of time.
So if you have planets in your personal natal chart, at 27, 28, 29 in a fixed sign, and the four fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. So if you have planets or angles in those degrees in any one of those four signs, then you get to receive this special developmental wave from the eclipse. But what we talked about in the video was how the world is being affected by it. You know, Aquarius, this eclipse happened in Aquarius, which is the humanistic sign, talking about the wave of development in humanity.
Absolutely. And also, I like how it also has to do with detachment, Aquarius.
Mhm.
So there is a logical AI driven forward movement in the world on every level in economy, in warfare, in healthcare. So it's very interesting how this Aquarian aspect ties so strongly into everything we see.
Yeah, because at the time of the eclipse was
Mhm.
Sun Moon conjunct at 28 Aquarius, squaring Uranus in Taurus. Now, we are recording this today, April 25th, in the morning, and later this evening, Uranus leaves Taurus and enters Gemini. So it's an important day. But even though Uranus will have moved into Gemini, that eclipse energy is going to reverberate for those late fixed signs. So let's talk about some of this development. First of all, we talked about President Trump. His natal chart received contact from that eclipse on February 17th. To his descendants, opposite the ascendant, Iran, the chart for the country of Iran, has Moon at 28 Taurus received contact from this eclipse. And we'll talk about some of the other world leaders in a second. Let's just focus on this for now because guess what? The first trigger activity that took place with the planets after the eclipse is when Operation Epic Fury started. And that was on February 28th when Mars hit 28 Aquarius, the degree of the eclipse. And that was just so uh, it, it, it illustrated astrology. Absolutely. I mean, that's when you go, astrology is amazing.
It really is, and I wish we would be consulted, some of the word readers, because it not only was that Mars activation, but it also happened during Mercury retrograde.
Hmm.
And in terms of timing, I
Not the
personally
best time.
believe it's not the best timing to start a war during Mercury retrograde because it does not promise a quick ending in itself. And I also find it fascinating how post this retrograde, so after the retrograde, not only President Trump's, but also Vice President Vance received activation from
Mhm.
all the cosmic transits and how he's on stage with traveling back and forth to Pakistan for peace talks.
Yes. So, what we wanted to talk about is not only what has already happened, but what's coming up. We wanted to just review this because at the time when we recorded the eclipse, the Operation Epic Fury, the conflict in Iran hadn't started yet. So now it has, so we can move it forward a bit. And you know what I'm focusing on is when we hit late June and we go to, let's say, the end of August. And I'm focused on the fact that that's when the nodal axis changes signs. So we're going to have the north and south node moving into Aquarius and Leo. And there is a Mercury retrograde in Cancer that happens starting late June that will conjoin two planets in Trump's chart and conjoin a planet in Iran's chart. I think we're going to see some big activity happening end of June into early August. And of course, I hate to say that because I would hope that this conflict would be ended by then. But if it's not, there's major activity taking place. And that's right when Iran is going to be receiving transit Jupiter to its own Jupiter.
Yes. Um, I agree with that. And then it also falls at the same time when the United States will celebrate its 250th birthday, and retrograding Mercury in Cancer will also affect the US chart
Mm-hmm.
right around that time. I also just would like to add that for our audience that not only the February eclipse recording we had, but also the one we recorded in November and was posted online December 29th, was it,
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, or something like that? Yeah, we also have mentioned many of these upcoming events accurately. So if you would like to, if you just joined in now and you would like to listen to us, we already in our at June 2026. And we will look further ahead because this very specific activation of the eclipse energy will last all the way until the summer of 2027.
And the video Agnes is referring to is the one where we did the entire year. So the overview for
Yes,
2026.
yes,
So I think the next, wave of activity is going to be during that Mercury retrograde in Cancer. So late June to August. If the conflict is not settled, I actually hoped that just a few days ago when we had Venus conjunct Uranus and Taurus, the kiss goodbye from Venus to Uranus and Taurus, I actually hoped we'd have some level of a peace agreement in place, but we didn't.
yeah. I feel with that it's more like the second half of May into June when we will have Venus and Jupiter traveling together.
Hmm.
I fear that that's could be a time that leads hopefully to a peace. And I was feeling last year already that by July, there should be some sort of, you know,
Agreement. Or,
agreement. Both actually, I felt the same with the war in Russia and Ukraine,
mhm.
as well as with this one.
Yeah, I think that Mercury retrograde in Cancer hitting Trump's chart, hitting the US chart is going to be quite interesting with Mars Uranus conjunct in Gemini happening on July 4th. But then if we flow this forward real quickly, and then we're going to talk
Yeah.
about some of the other world leaders affected. We have to talk about not only the nodal axis shifting into Aquarius and Leo, but isn't it fascinating? The North Node will be in Aquarius, and Jupiter is going to enter Leo in the summer of 2027. Well, summer in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yes.
And Jupiter in Leo expands ego in a sense, and North Node in Aquarius says the opposite. It expands connectedness with humanity, not necessarily ego. So we have a conflicting message there. Hopefully, what that brings, the transit of Jupiter in Leo and North Node in Aquarius, hopefully it brings balanced confidence, heartfelt ego energy that has heart, not just arrogance, right?
Yes, also ruling humanity.
Connection between, in our planet. But when Jupiter enters Leo, then Trump and Vance are going to be receiving that Jupiter energy to their ascendant. And later when we get into November, December, when Mars enters Leo, the next really juicy time, whether the conflict in Iran is going on or not, hopefully it won't be, but the next juicy time per the eclipse that happened in February, it's going to be November, December when Mars and Jupiter are in late Leo hitting their chart.
Yes, and I also do feel that still many things will be happening in the background. So, not openly, President Trump has a late Leo rising sign. So, the Jupiter transit happens essentially in his 12th house. And so it's the same for Vice President Vance. So, I do fear that, and this also could do something again with the new some of the new Neptunian transits, Neptune in Saturn, that what we see about a conflict is not necessarily what's happening
Oh, yes. And here we have
in
talk
the
about
conflict.
AI
Yes.
and misinformation all over the place. Uranus and Gemini is going to be an exponential growth curve with AI for the next 7 years. 7 years from now, we're going to look back and we're not going to recognize. I mean, there's going to be such a big difference how AI
Yes.
has infiltrated our life.
Which really, I don't want to switch a subject or a topic, but this is something that is so strongly on my mind, and I would love you to think about it maybe for our next talk, and also our audience to think about it. That this is the first time in humanity's history that due to AI, the next generation, so our children's generation or our children's children's generation, is less smart, less intelligent than our generation. And what does it mean from a human evolution point of view? It has never happened since the Homo sapiens is in existence. Every generation moved a step ahead of the previous generation. And now we have the opposite happening for the first time ever.
Mhm.
Speaking of Aquarius and Aquarian aspect about humanity. So it's
Yeah.
not a step up, it's a step back.
Yeah, because AI will start doing the thinking for people potentially. It is quite
It
interesting, but
it already does, and it's also interesting because it self-generates its own thoughts. It's actually getting less smart.
mhm,
So even AI compared to today's use, compared to 6 months ago, is also not developing by the technological aspects and to how to use it, but in everyday searches, everyday information, AI's level is already lower than it was 6 months ago because everybody is using it and it's not evolving. It just self-generates the same information.
interesting. Well, on related to world events, I think we need to be very, very aware and careful of what we are reading and not necessarily believe everything we are seeing right off the bat because AI generated video. My husband can see the difference instantly because he's a video guy, but I can't always see I have to really think about it and question it.
Yes. And not only the visuals, but also the content. I have many new clients calling me where they say, oh, but this is what ChatGPT said, like this is my ascendant. And
Hmm.
it's incorrect information. It's
Yeah.
just simply incorrect. So you have to be very discerning with information what AI provides.
Yeah. And that's part of what the eclipse in February started. I mean, there's a reason this was at 28 Aquarius, square Uranus. It was the introduction to AI coming into our life and what is evolving from it. So when Jupiter goes into Leo in the middle of this year, and then Mars goes into Leo and retrogrades. There's something so cosmic about that, that Mars and Jupiter would be operating together in late Leo, activating the degree of the eclipse. The same time, Aquarius North Node is happening. I mean, this is just so, and then what we talked about in the eclipse video is January 31st, Mercury hits 28 degrees Aquarius and then retrogrades. And in February, it will hit 28 Aquarius again, the exact degree of the eclipse. And this is overlapping the time when Jupiter is in Leo and Mars is still retrograding, hitting
Yes,
those degrees. I mean,
yes.
this is pretty phenomenal what's going to be
And
happening.
we also will have Mars retrograding
Hmm.
next March.
Hmm.
So
Mars retrograde starts in late Leo in March. But it hits the first time it hits late Leo is going to be in November.
yes, yes. So it will hover over that degree for
Yeah.
a very long period of time because of Mars retrograding. So the first
Mhm.
hit in November, and I don't remember by heart, Kathy, but isn't I think it's an earlier degree. I was thinking about uh, Venus in Scorpio retrograding in the fall of 2026, if
Mhm.
that also hits that late 28 degree.
Yeah, it
I think
doesn't
it
hit the
starts
late
before,
degree.
starts at 18 probably.
Yeah. Venus
Yeah.
is going to retrograde in late Libra and early Scorpio.
Early
So
Scorpio.
that one is different. But, if we were to summarize this with very little jargon, I would say that the important time frame begins in November with Mars hitting late Leo and Jupiter in late Leo at the same time. So if you think of from November to July, we have this development between Mars and Jupiter and a Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, late Aquarius happening over. I mean, there's so much. So, what are we going to be seeing in the world? AI development for sure. And, development in our personal lives for those of us affected by the eclipse that started in February. This is
Uh,
enormous.
it really is. It really is. But I also will, as a forever optimistic person, I will also grab the positive aspects.
Mhm.
Mars, Jupiter, rebuilding.
Yes. Yes. So, the way to use this personally is to connect with the Aquarian humanity energy, connect with the brotherhood and sisterhood of humans. Um, Focus your thinking in the heart, which is Jupiter and Leo, and build your confidence with heart energy, not just the need to get approval from others or applause from others, but the connection with humanity. But it is something to observe this wave of development. It's fascinating, and we have to talk about some of the other leaders that we talked about in the world in that video and what happened with them.
Yes, I will answer to that in a moment. I just would like to add also, Leo has a lot to do with children and the
Mhm.
humanitarian aspect. I also would like to remind all of us that children are hugely affected by everything what is happening to what they are inadvertently exposed to. So let's keep also our babies, our little ones, our children, our big kids in mind with these Leo Aquarius because they are the future of humanity.
Absolutely. And as a new grandmother with a 1-year-old grandson, I feel that palpably, you know.
Yes.
And I spend a lot of time thinking about he is born in the AI generation. And it's interesting, yes. So we have to guard their heart energy and enhance their heart energy.
Yes, very much so. To your question about other world leaders, we talked about Mexico and this activation from the eclipse and all through the other aspects we mentioned is still ongoing there. We talked about Hungary, where Prime Minister Viktor Orban received an aspect Mars squared by the eclipse, squared by Uranus, and he lost the elections just a few weeks ago. So these activations have real life and long-term consequences, historical consequences.
Hmm. And Netanyahu has Mars at 26 Leo, and he's very much part of what's happening. Life becomes very active when you receive contact from that kind of an eclipse and you are a world leader. And again, all these times we talked about, well, Viktor Orban, what's he going to do now? Do you know? I mean, you're Hungarian, you're probably very much keyed into politics there.
So I think it's not clear at this point. His strategic work will be continued on a European level
Mhm.
by uh, formulating an alliance with similar thinking politicians. However, the new government is not in power yet. They will
Mhm.
be, I believe, in about maybe 10 days or so. So we also have to see how they step into power and what are their first actions in this
Mhm.
sense.
Well, Viktor Orban's Mars at 28 Leo will receive direct contact in all these time frames we're talking about, as Trump's and Netanyahu's and Iran's chart. I mean, it's a powerful wave of development that is undeniable.
Yes.
All the way until June or July of 2027, when Jupiter ends the retrograde at 28 Leo. And just before that, Mars will have ended the retrograde at 28 Leo in May. So, we're in it for the long haul. And I say to the people who are listening, if you have planets that were affected by that eclipse, then pay attention to the decisions you were making, the directions you were taking, or the events that were happening in your life, and continue the wave of development. Let it flow through you so that you grow, because you're going to be highly activated in all these times we mentioned, particularly November through July.
I also find it fascinating that many of these world leaders have significant points also in Gemini.
Hmm.
Early Gemini that will be activated during this time also by the Uranian transit
Hmm.
at the same time. And overall, how all through this phase from February 2026 all the way through July 2027, all these energies move in air and fire. It's like in feng shui, how air fuels fire in the elemental cycle is what we see.
Yes, absolutely. One last little fine point, not related to this eclipse. Well, it is related to the eclipse development, has to do with Trump's chart and JD Vance's chart. So, President and Vice President of the US. There is a significant solar arc happening for both of them, which is unusual that they would be receiving the same solar arc aspect in a short period of time. President Trump will have solar arc Neptune opposite his sun, and it will be exact in December of 2026. So it's starting to be active a little bit now, because solar arcs start
Yeah.
6 months prior to being exact and last 6 months after. And JD Vance will have the exact same solar arc Neptune opposite his sun in June. It will be exact in June of 2027. Now, one way to look at that, sometimes receiving a solar arc from Neptune to the sun, sometimes that's a wipeout. Sometimes it's confusion and bewilderment. Sometimes, it is a dissolving of your position. However, they're both going to be receiving the transit from Jupiter at the same time. So this is, I don't know how it's going to pan out, and I don't wish negative on anybody. I don't. But I'm paying attention to the fact that this is not just going to be a stable, passive time. This is massive development centered in the US, really.
Yeah, it is so true. And I find it also interesting that this solar arc activation for President Trump starts with his birthday when he has a new moon.
Yes. And right after the midterm elections.
Yes, yes,
So, something major will be happening.
yes.
And we shall see how that develops. But, I guess the last thing I want to talk about is the solar eclipse in Aquarius in February started to jiggle our reality somewhat. It was like a little earthquake in stability. And that is typical with Uranus, especially Uranus and Taurus. So it's been a little bit of a earthquake in reality, and a lot of people are feeling it, a little lack of stability in the background energy. So we all have to shore up our own inner security, our own positivity, and energize it. And that's what Uranus and Gemini is all about: is focusing your thinking where you want it to go, giving energy to what you want, not what you don't want.
Yes, and in the backdrop, all of it, we also have Uranus and Pluto uh, traveling together in a trine aspect, which is
Mhm.
also powerful forward movement,
Yes.
if you would like to. And I really feel we need three things more than anything other than, or as part of creating our own personal energies. We all need to have patience. We all need to have optimism. And despite everything what happens in the world, we still need a little enthusiasm.
Yes.
uh, because we just can't be subjected to news that, as we have mentioned, are to a large extent AI generated, or who knows what the truth is. We also have to realize that that's a huge business that feeds off of negativity and selling negativity. So we have to be patient with these world developments, with our loved ones, with ourselves. Stay optimistic and also enthusiastic with what you do, because I think that creates and feeds such a beautiful energy that the world still moves on, goes forward. We have Uranus to Pluto, powerful positive changes as well. So we have to focus our intentions and attentions maybe like that.
We are co-creators of reality, and we have to take responsibility for that. The world doesn't happen to us. We help to create what's happening. So participate, participate. And when Jupiter goes into Leo, go for it. Really put your heart and your confidence into creating the reality that you want in your own little bubble and spreading it out into the world. Yeah, I don't want this to sound negative, but it is going to be fascinating and interesting. What an amazing opportunity we have right now, right?
It's history in the making on every level, on world level, on humanitarian level, on personal level, and we can make the most of it.
hmm So we shall see what's happening. Bear in mind that we have this very juicy time that comes up end of June through August. with the Mercury retrograde in Cancer and everything else happening. And then this super juicy time from November of 2026 until July of 27. So participate in life and let's see what happens. And maybe we'll do another update to advance this, filling in with what has happened.
Yes, we do the other update when school starts. When
Yes. Yeah.
I think that would be a good timing, with the eclipses in early September. And it's so funny, before we joined online, I just shared with Kathy how I feel a bit of a relief with Uranus leaving our Taurus signs. And then yet there is it's not over yet. It's not quite over yet, with the
Yeah.
energies and activations. So patience, optimism, enthusiasm are the keywords.
Yeah, we are recording this on April 25th in the morning, and Uranus leaves Taurus and enters Gemini tonight in the evening hours of April 25th in the US time zone. So, we are in the very last few minutes of Uranus and Taurus as we are recording this. And I've received a Uranus Taurus for 5 years now. So, yes, I'm happy it's moving into the next sign to just calm everything down for a bit.
Yes.
Right.
I think also just a little sparkle at the end is how Venus and Uranus traveled in the last degree now in Taurus,
Mhm.
and they will travel together in the first degrees of
Yes.
Gemini, so that sparks our lives a little bit.
Mhm. Venus welcomes Uranus. It says it kisses goodbye to Uranus in Taurus, and then it gives it a kiss hello in Gemini. And that's so nice to have Venus welcoming the energy, but it is a major phase change. We can feel
Yes,
it. Yeah.
yes. And that's how we like it, with the
Yes.
kisses.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you as always for your insight and the conversation, Agnes. And for all of you listening, feel free to schedule a consult with either of us if you want your chart delineated, if you have planets in those degrees, so that you can understand how you're going to have this beautiful wave of development.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kathy. Until next time.
Until next time,
Bye.
bye for now.